gentlemen, this contest set for one fall is for the WWE Championship.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome to Around the Turnbuckle. I'm the Big Alboski, my broadcast colleague, and the voice of 3WA Carnage, Professor Keith, is right there.
That I am. I appreciate the introduction.
Maybe not his face, but his voice. You will be able to see him, but you know. But anyway, our guest tonight on Around
we all know the voice is more impressive than the face.
Sure. Our guest tonight on Around the Turnbuckle is the Toxic King, Rico Hendrix. What's up, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Oh, we're great. We are fabulous. Fresh off of a 3WA event that you were a part of.
Yes.
Before we start talking about your career in general, talk about last night a little bit. Like, how'd you get to feel the vibe? I mean, it was a pretty cool night for 3WA. They had former WWE stars, etc. So how did you feel about it?
First, the show went well. First of all, I'm dead tired now because of that. I got those. Okay, for starters, we were late. We were so behind schedule, and then the show ran late, and then we got late getting home. So I'm dead tired. But overall, the show went really well. I was pleased with just about everything. It was a good environment. We had fun. Carlito was a lot buffer than I thought.
Right. I know. I was impressed by that too. I was like, I mean, I knew he was no slouch, but I'm looking at him like he's taller than I thought. He's buffer than I thought. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess it comes down to you see all these other guys in WWE and you're judging him against that, and you're going, he's impressive, but he's not all that. And then he comes to Quakertown and he's right in front of you, and you're like, oh.
Holy crap.
I have misjudged.
Right. But the match was cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I thought you did really well in your match in particular. You had your manager out there with you.
Yes.
So talk about him. Talk about your affiliation with him, because I'm used to seeing you in other places without a manager. So tell me about this guy.
Honestly, it varies. It depends on where I am. So as far as Triple WA, I do have him. So we met. It's about 2 years ago. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but him managing came up. Oh, I remember, because I was running a show. It was called Diamond's Paradise at the time. It was just at the school where we trained, and we were having a student show so everybody could get some live reps during the pandemic. And he was a ring announcer at the time, and we had a conversation. He bought it managing. I was like, hey, you can manage me if you want. And I was looking for that different layer to my character. So we went with it, and we caught fire pretty quickly, and the chemistry just developed. We went from there, and it started working out. So there was that.
I think it's a good addition for you. This was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this was your second or third match in 3WA? Second. And he was with you the prior time, and I think for what you're doing with the Toxic King, he's a great addition. Like that's a character that feels like to me a manager, and that particular manager adds something. And it's imperceptible. It's just it's there. And it's good and it's necessary. You can't quite put your finger on why it needs to be there, but it needs to be there, and it's good. I know that sounds very vague, but it's just that's something you can't describe.
Right. I'll take it a step further, because a lot of people especially in 2022, they're like, oh, he only has a manager because he can't talk on the mic. And then I talk on the mic.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you
holy
can
crap,
talk.
this guy can promo for 15 minutes straight, more than likely, and you won't get lost once.
No.
I've given live promos that have been minutes long before. So it's like, oh, he can do it. So what's he got the manager for? And that is such a it's not good. It's not good. I don't use a manager as a handicap. It's an addition. It's something that makes you stronger than you are, especially like even with the subtleties, like rolling up the robe and handing it over in such a way, and having him hand me the microphone and having him call me all kinds of nicknames and stuff. And in some cases, like he'll point out women in the crowd for me, stuff like that. Like,
he's truly managing you.
Right.
That's what it is. He's truly a manager. He's not just there for a promo. He's there to manage your career, to assist you, which is what a manager should be doing.
Right. And there's been times where I've given promos and he's stood there. So I can do it.
I have a slew of comments that have come through during your conversation with the professor. So here's...
That was fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So Big David Motorman is a big SWO fan. Good evening, guys. It's my favorite king, Rico the Toxic King. Prince Machiavelli in the house. Prince Machiavelli. Yeah, man. I really love his work. I love Prince Machiavelli's work. Big Rico.
And just to put him over a little bit more, he has significantly improved it in the past, like year even. He is absolutely. He is phenomenal. So check him out.
And yes, listen, Prince Machiavelli, that is an open invitation to come on this show. Absolutely, an open invitation to come on this show. We would love to talk to you, man. So Anthony Joseph's here. What's up? Giving away a Ric Flair Carolina shirt. Is this guy a jobber? No, he sticks with his team.
I'm loyal. You can't say I'm
loyal. Yeah, I'm loyal. And I hate that term jobber, carpenter.
Should already know my comment about the view. Yes. We already know how you feel about not being able to see the professor.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I say the voice is more impressive than the face. Johnny Potter taught me that.
Yeah, that's classic Johnny Potter right there for you. All right, man. So let's start at the beginning. Once upon a time, you fell in love with wrestling because you would not be putting your body on the line for our entertainment if you didn't love this.
Right.
So when did that happen to you? Were you a kid, or how did that tell us that story?
Very young, actually. I was more okay. Well, the first time I watched wrestling, I was about 6 years old, and I think it was a Shelton Benjamin match, which is the oddest thing. It was a random match on Raw. Like you wouldn't think that. Oh, this guy watched Shelton Benjamin. He wanted to wrestle. I think it was like him and RVD or something. And I was like, oh, this is a pretty good match. I think RVD was champion at the time, actually.
Yeah, it could have been
just off of beating Cena, maybe.
Probably, maybe if he
was maybe, or it could have been the hardcore title run
because his run wasn't long.
No, couple months.
So if he was champion, like it was, I caught it at the perfect time.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he was facing Shelton Benjamin or something like that. They had a good match, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Later on, the match that made me like, I want to do this, and I'm gonna date myself. But it was Armageddon 2008. It was Jeff Hardy, Triple H, and Edge. And that was the night that, or was it 09? It was 09. It was 09. Where, no, it was one of 08 or 09. I want to say 08, though. But it was when Jeff Hardy won the triple threat match and won the WWE Championship. And everybody went insane. The confetti was going. He slammed the chair. He's screaming. He's excited. Gets on top of the castle, everything. And that celebration alone was like, I got to do this. Because if you can evoke that much emotion from a crowd and it means that much to you and you sucked me into it and gave me goosebumps at that young age, I was like, I got to do it.
Yeah. I love he says he's dating himself in 09, and you date yourself back to Snuka and Piper with the coconut owl, and it's
1985, man. 1985.
Me with Taker shoving Warrior in the casket. Like,
oh,
yeah, I go back to 1988. Well, actually, 83 or 84.
Yeah, I was born in 99. So
there you go. So there you go. Do the math.
You're young, and it's fine. We don't hold it against you.
And it's good. It's a good thing, man, because you got a lot ahead of you then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So when did you decide that you actually wanted to try this? Where did you seek training? Who trained you?
All right, so I was actually, funny story, I was in college at the time. Well, I'm in college now, but I was in college the first time, and wasn't going well. Wasn't going well. So I was like, dang, I'm trying to go home and get a job, just forget this college stuff. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm ready to get a chunk of change from the because you get, what's it called, the refunds from financial aid, something like that. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, there's this wrestling school that I found. I said, let me see if I can, hit them up, see what's going on. So it was EWA, the Pain Factory. It's in Dundalk. And message them. We were going back and forth because Jim is awful with answering his phone. Anybody will tell you that. But it took a couple months for me to get in, and I started in January of 2019. That's shortly after my 19th birthday. So I started. The first bump I took, it hurt. Once my body got used to it, and the more I trained and stuff like that, things started coming together. So it was a lot of fun.
We have breaking news. The Phillies have won the pennant.
Oh,
Congrats.
Yes, the Phillies have won the pennant. The Phillies are going to the World Series. And anybody that knows me, sorry, Rico, I got to say, I'm so excited. That's awesome. They just got to figure it out. The Phillies have won the National League. Their National League.
That's great. Well deserved.
Awesome.
I'll most likely be rooting for the Phillies because my team wants to give it away, even though everybody gets mad at my team. Buy championships. We didn't buy one this year, kids.
No.
and was wild. I was mostly going for the Red Sox too, and then I was like,
Although
I liked him up until he said that.
Let me say this. I will say this, Keith. You mentioned about buying a World Series. The Phillies have the highest payroll in baseball, so they did. If they go all the way, they did buy the World Series this year.
Well, you know what? I mean,
you got way over the luxury tax.
Yeah, you got to spend money to make a championship.
I'm so happy, guys.
But
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Rico, I'm sorry.
Leave it there. I'll leave it there because I don't want to derail this.
I got choked
talk of another sport.
There's David Motorman. Phillies, ring that bell, drink that booze, man. I'm celebrating that later. Absolutely. Yeah. That's so awesome. All right, so back to you, man. So where were you? I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
Very good. Yeah, I was just talking about where I started training. I was EWA Pain Factory, and I came up at the same time. I'm sure a lot of you guys know Saul. Him and I. Well, he started a little before I did. No, he started way before I did actually, but he was too young, so he couldn't get on shows or anything. I was already old enough to be on shows, so when I started, and that was a little bit before his 18th birthday. So we literally started like show-wise almost neck and neck. He was a little before me because he was there longer. But there was him, and then I met Mason Walls, who was my mentor. We got really close. I came up with a few guys, but they're not really working anymore either. But I had a lot of guys that I was either really close with or have literally reached down to pick me up while I was brand new. So that was definitely a blessing to have. And I try to do that now with talent coming into the school, even though, unfortunately, I can't be there as much because of real life that I won't get into. But I try to make sure that, let me help the new guy out. I'm like, if you need to know anything, if you got a wrestling question, I can answer it. If I can't answer, I know somebody that does have the answer.
And man, I love Saul. Like Saul's really good. Like he's young,
he is,
but he gets better and better each time we go to like SWO and see him perform.
He's actually, if I'm 22, did he just turn 21?
Yeah, he just turned 21. I had heard.
Yeah, he is because I'll be 23 next month or December 1st. So yes.
At the last show, I remember Big Dust yelling out, 21 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Like
I do remember that. Yeah.
2 years. Well. A year and some change younger. So yeah.
Big Dave is here. He says, I turned off the game just as Bryce hit that home run to listen to my man Rico.
Oh, well, I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. That's commitment.
Oh, I love it. All right, man. So you've wrestled. I do notice that you've made your way around the area, around Pennsylvania, maybe a little bit Jersey too. Am I wrong in saying
Jersey yet? I don't know.
You haven't done Jersey yet? Just Pennsylvania?
It's been PA, Maryland, West Virginia, North Carolina. I was about to be in Virginia last week, or 2 weeks ago, but something happened. So I stay in that same strip, but I'm trying to get to. I've been to New York once. I've been to Indiana once. and that's it.
So you are branching out, like you are, and you're definitely
Jersey and New York is priority number 1 for 2023.
Yeah,
sure.
I can hear that. Yeah, especially if you're doing Pennsylvania, similar style, but potentially bigger audiences. It's a good
Definitely.
goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you the obvious questions, like what are your goals for professional wrestling? Do you want to do this for a living? I mean, some guys are just happy just being part of it. Some guys are happy just doing what they're doing. Some guys just, live a whole career in the indies and enjoy that. Like, what do you want out of professional wrestling?
My answer to that question has actually changed recently because, not by much, but I want to go as far as I can go and make as much money as I can. And that's the point. If it ends up with getting a contract from WWE, that's what happens. If I don't go, if I'm only on like an MLW or Impact Wrestling and, I'm able to work the indies and stuff and I have fun and I'm making decent money that way, cool. But recently, when you find your actual purpose in life, well, not your actual purpose, 2 of them actually. So I'm actually in school now for paralegal studies, which is basically diet law school to make it easy. And, okay, like this is something
he's right.
I want. So even if wrestling doesn't work out for me, I got something I want anyways.
Which is great. You absolutely should have a fallback plan, right? Because wrestling is hard. There's only so many spots anywhere. It's hard to get noticed. It's hard to break out. So you know what? Not saying you won't. I think I think you're very good. But I love that you're saying, you know what? I'm going to be realistic about this. I'm going to ride that train as hard as I can ride it, as far as it can go. But I'm going to have a backup if it doesn't go where I think it's going to go. That's the way to go.
And I encourage people to, well, this is the example I use. Let's say WWE's like, hey, Rico, we like you, blah, blah, blah. I go in there, first match on NXT, tear my ACL, and I'm out for a year. And then, I come back and, we don't have anything for you, brother.
Yep.
Those things happen.
Right.
So you got to be smart. I actually need my charger. So where'd it go? Give me like 30 seconds. You can answer your
You got it, man. You got it.
Sure.
So
he's
so while
100% right.
Oh yeah,
100% right. Because everybody thinks, wrestling's BS and they're all actors and what. No, there's an athletic component to this. I really believe the word sport should be applied to wrestling. Because yes, it's predetermined, the outcomes and all that stuff, but you are doing sports-related athletic maneuvers. You're athletic in there. Everything hurts, even when you know how to take a bump. I mean, I remember meeting Ted DiBiase when I was in 7th grade, and I forget exactly how the question was worded, but it was something along the lines of, what was the hardest thing for you to learn? And he said hitting the ropes, because hitting the ropes hurts every single time until you know where to hit, and then you create a callus there so that it doesn't hurt so much anymore. And I remember Mick Foley writing in his book that he had no idea how to hit the ropes, and the first time he hit the ropes, he hit with his kidney or something, and he was peeing blood for a week.
Peeing blood for a week.
So I mean, we can sit there and say, "Oh, well, you guys aren't serious with wins and losers, winners and losers and all that stuff." But you know what? You screw this up, you're going to do yourself some damage.
Yeah, you're going to mess your life up. And the thing about ropes is, just to add on to that, all rings aren't created equally.
Oh, no.
So you got factor in there's rings that it's actual rope, and then you got some rings that are cables with like duct tape around it or electrical tape. There are some rings where I'm about 6'1", 6'2". If I'm wearing my boots, I'm about 6'3", 6'4". So there's some rings where I'll hit like daggone near right under the shoulder blades. And then there's some smaller rings or some lower rings where I'll hit right in the middle of my back. Yeah. So it's adjustment too.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the indies, right? I've noticed that too. Like you said, you have different size rings, and you have to like, adjust, like, I guess, especially if it's someplace you've never wrestled before.
Yeah.
You have to get in there and check the ring out, hit the ropes a couple of times, just make sure you know what you're doing in that ring, right?
Right.
And I mean, even some of your majors will have that. Like he said, ropes versus cable.
Right.
WWE had that reputation for a lot of years. They would use the actual
Yes, they do.
ropes, and a lot of guys hate that because they're like, the cable is so much easier to hit because there's a little more give in it, whereas the ropes are stiffer and it takes you a little longer to get the feel of that. I mean, that's an amateur just reading things. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there, Rico, please, because you've actually done it.
It depends. It honestly depends on who put the ring together. Really, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
There's times where the ropes themselves have hurt less. So it just depends. Wow. It always depends. It's case by case. It's never an absolute.
Okay, it's great to know. I mean, these are the things, those are the questions I love asking, even the little detailed things like that, because I just love learning about the business. I really do. I'm such a student of the game without, being somebody that's ever like, I have the body or the athleticism to ever take a bump.
And just to give more perspective, 3WA and SWO's ring, same exact ring.
Right.
So and again, about all rings aren't created equal. It's a 16-foot by 16-foot. So you're also adjusting how you're stepping, how you're running, like those small things. Because there's certain ones you might wrestle in at 18, you might wrestle in at 20. And I've heard from a source that Lucha Underground is a 22. So it's like, all right, well, I can take 4 steps to get to this corner. I can take 3 steps to get to the corner. It's always going to be something different. It's the small details that is going to make you great. And you got to be able to adjust to them consistently.
Sean Hardy's here. Rico is a great talent.
He is.
What's up, Sean? Thanks for your comment. Keep them coming, everybody. Keep them coming. Everybody that's watching. And if you have a question for him, by all means, ask. If it's something I don't think it's appropriate, I won't let it through, but ask anyway.
Absolutely. Don't let me take up all his time with the nerdy stuff.
Well, anyway, so moving on, then you had your training. So tell us about your first match. Do you remember your first match and who it was against?
Vividly. It was a pre-show match, EWA Evolution 2019. It was against Eddie Blas. And I was coming in. It was a tournament match. It was for the Warehouse Wars Championship first round. Warehouse Wars Championship doesn't exist anymore. It was the match. It was about 7 minutes long. It went the way a first match is gonna go. It wasn't right, but it wasn't bad either. But funny story, I'll name drop. I don't care. He won't care. Yeah. Elijah Burke showed up to the show.
No kidding.
He was backstage because he knows some of the talent there. And he being the kid, I'm excited just to see him because I watch him on TV. I seriously look up to him. Sure. After the match was over, it was about 7 or 8 minutes long. Went decent. About a 6 out of 10. It was all right. I get to the back, everybody's high-fiving me because it was my first match. Good job. I get up to him. I'm like, hey, so what'd you think? And he just was like, what did I think? And then he looked at Chris. He was like, you mind if I take him to the back for a second and talk to him? I'm like, oh, crap.
Oh, man.
So then we went to the back. He was cool. He was cool as a fan. But we went back there. This man lectured me for like 25 minutes on everything. This man picked out a 6-7 minute match and just went. He was like, you should have did this. Should have did this here. Should have did this here. I was like, you right. And just nodding my head. I'm like, okay.
Well. But that's so good that he thought enough of you to be like, hey, let's go in the back and let's dissect it, right?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. He didn't have to do that at all.
No.
Because most people, and that was a gutsy thing. That was very gutsy. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate him. He's a very intelligent individual. He doesn't get the credit he deserves in the business.
No, he does not. I always thought he was very underrated.
Certainly.
Very underrated.
So, talk about some of your best opponents between that first match and now, ones that you thought you had best chemistry with. Not necessarily like you're not throwing the other ones, everybody that you've ever been in the ring with, under the bus when you answer that. It's just that you felt like if you could wrestle that person every match for the rest of your life, you'd be a happy guy.
Certainly, and this is an obvious answer. If he's watching, Saul Esparza is my wrestling soulmate, in my opinion. I think we should be wrestling like everywhere. The one match we had was in a cage match, and obviously not limited by weapons in a cage and stuff like that.
Right.
But if you want to see a match where we just gonna go, we're gonna hit each other, because I'll get to that later. You want to go? That's one. Recently at the startup promotion, UCW Undisputed Championship Wrestling, I believe. It's the new one because apparently I'm not gonna get into all of that. But Emerson, I believe is how you say his name. First of all, did a great job on the first show. Everything was extremely organized. Even to this day, everything is down to a T. Like, he's very detail oriented. But we had a show, and it was myself against a guy named Saren Rain. First of all, I was like, that's an interesting name. Never heard of this guy. I was like, looked him up. I'm like, okay, you know, nice looking dude, cool. We wrestled, and I was like, where have you been all my life? I just rewatched it yesterday. The match just dropped on YouTube, so if you get a chance, go check it out. We went 10 minutes, and we honestly still had more to go, but we had to call it early because, you know, we're respectful and stay within our time limits. But I was like, oh, my goodness, this was great. Not that I want to. I think wrestling Rhett Titus taught me a lot. That was a lot of fun. It was a solid match. It wasn't, and admittedly, that was probably a rough night for me. But it was like, it wasn't a bad match though. If you guys watch it back, it really wasn't. It was more, but I definitely learned a lot in that stuff because he wrestles a completely different style than I do, and I'm not going to sit there and call my stuff to him. That's dumb. But huge learning experience there. He's very good in the ring, very detail oriented in the ring as well. Trying to think of anybody else. Sonny Kiss was fun.
Yeah.
Sonny flies around a lot.
Yeah.
Taking that torpedo kick scared the crap out of me though, because I called it in the back. I was like, "Hey, you want to do that kick I saw you do?" He was like, "Oh, the spin it." He was like, "I was like, yeah, okay." So I'm thinking like, yeah, this is gonna look good. I saw it coming and was like, "Oh no."
Man, yeah. So, one of your opponents from last night is actually here and watching, and that'd be Mikey Raw.
Hey, what's going on?
Mike says, it was good getting in the ring with you. Great talent. You have a bright future. Keep pushing, bro.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I like 3WA. I like that intimate feel too. It's not, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's a different world than I've ever been, you know, a part of.
They really get, like, since Keith and I have both been a part of SWO and 3WA, they have subtle differences, and some are good and some are bad. I'm not going to say one is better than the other, but what I'm saying is what you're talking about is the crowds, because the SWO crowd are faithful, they're loyal, they're crazy, but you're in a much wider open space.
SWO crowd wanted to kill me a couple times. So.
Right.
I can see it.
And you really get under their skin, and that's the thing. And you were getting under the skin last night of the 3WA crowd, because the 3WA crowd, like you said, it's a little more intimate, a little more closed in there, right? We're all on top of each other, so it sounds a little louder, perhaps, because
a lot of the same faces every month and whatnot too.
Another loyal crowd, but they're bloodthirsty, they're crazy, all right? A little bit closer to Philly, maybe. And I don't know if that kind of orchestrates what goes on there or not, but
I will definitely
to some degree. I mean, I know Quakertown a little bit from before I was affiliated with 3WA. I have some, friends up that way. My godkids are up that way, and their mother. It's a good crowd, and I think it's a really good place to learn. There's so many talents in just the 2 years that Al and I have been affiliated with them. There's so many good talents there, and then you have a management that really knows wrestling from going back and back and back. There's all that history and that knowledge there. It's such a good place for a wrestler to learn and to really find themselves. And if you're somebody that just enjoys coming in there and doing 3WA, I mean, I would say to anybody in the Pennsylvania independent circuit, if you can make 3WA part of your circuit, you should do it. I mean, full disclosure, we're the commentary team there, all that good stuff. But even if we weren't, I would still be putting them over for that, because I think it's just such a great place.
I get to call a Rico. We get to call a Rico Hendrix match next week, Professor. So
that we do.
We do. Well, we record. What happens is we don't do it live. They send us the video We do the voiceover, and so we do it after the fact.
That'll be
ECW style.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get you all. Yeah, no, I'm not talking about bush holds next week. That's a different thing. But anyway,
we'll be calling that too, just later.
Well, right, but I'm just talking about the match he had Saturday night against Mikey Raw, and who was the other guy?
The dude. Yeah,
how dare you? Everyone in Quakertown loves the dude.
They do love the dude.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, okay, cool.
He's an interesting character, Rico. He is, but I mean, he's infectious, I guess. But anyway, if you like that sort of thing. But anyway, tell us about the Toxic King. Tell us about the origin of him. What part of the Toxic King comes out of you? Where did you find him? When did you find him?
That's a good question. It just happened, in all honesty. I really drew inspiration from Future Hendrix. Actually, that's where the last name came from. Future Hendrix, the rapper, drew inspiration from that because we got into all things that, or that's what we're really emphasizing now. Derek and I we talk a lot in the car, so that's what we're looking to draw into as we go forward. We want to really highlight elements of toxicity, like you got Future was the whole misogynist and treat women badly, and then you got some guys that are I don't know, they're liars or cheaters, just all of that stuff. So I was like, let's incorporate all elements of bad people and put it into one person, and then we're going to try to push that forward. And then because the main thing we've been trying to highlight as of this past year or so is the God complex thing. So we're trying to say, hey, we can come save you. You're all our subjects, so on and so forth. And it's like, it's working, but everything has a shelf life, in my opinion. And you got to know when to adapt too. And if something is like, okay, well, they got the idea of it, but now it needs a different layer, then we need to take it to a different place.
It's good that you have that open mind then, because a lot of guys just stick with what they know. I mean, we know a guy that you are familiar with named Merrick Miami. And 2 years ago, that guy did not exist. Okay.
I know. Yeah.
And that's the key. He adapted. He evolved, so to speak, and he took all the best pieces of himself, and he just keeps getting better.
That's a match I should have mentioned. I didn't even think about it.
I only mentioned it as an example. It's the first thing that popped in my head when you mentioned evolving, and to mention
plus I mean, Miami's our guy, so.
Right. That was the first match of our three was my personal favorite. He may have a different opinion, but the first match of our three was my favorite. I really enjoyed that one.
I did talk to him after that match, and he did say nothing but good stuff about you the first time he met you one-on-one. I had the opportunity of announcing you to the ring. My first and only time I ring announced for Outbreak Wrestling.
Wow.
Yeah.
For Outbreak Wrestling, back in July, I ring announced the entire show for the quarantine second anniversary. The quarantine second anniversary. What was that?
That was against Tarzan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And we had him on, and I don't know if you've seen that interview, but I highly recommend it.
I'll go look at it.
He had a bunch of stories on top of stories, and then he even gave us a concert at the end there. Right. Guitar.
Interesting on so many levels is Tarzan Duran.
Yeah, when I first saw him, I'm just like, hey, where's my opponent? So on and so forth. This guy walks in. Y'all think that's character? That is not.
Oh no, that's not.
I know.
That man walked into the building.
Talking to him for 60 minutes, I'm like, that's a shoot.
He was wearing shorts and I think he had shoes on. I'm sure he did. He was walking on rocks.
Oh my God.
He comes in, he's chilling. He's like, hey man, we're gonna call our match in a minute. I'm like, okay. We call the match, blah blah blah. First of all, I don't know if any of you guys how hot the Hamburg Fieldhouse is.
Oh yeah.
In the summertime.
Oh yeah.
And
my God, yeah.
We
did a whole day there for the first Legends of Hamburg convention. Al and I had a table, and we were there the entire day. So I mean,
Yeah, it was awful. But so we call our match, you know, we're like, all right, let's get ready, get dressed, so on and so forth. I turn around, I see this man chugging a half gallon of milk. I'm like, number one, I'm lactose intolerant. Number two, right. I remember my football coach when I was a kid saying to never drink milk before. I'm like, this guy gonna throw up in the ring on me. But then he went out there smooth as silk. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, he's an interesting guy.
Like, it's funny when you talk to him. I mean, yeah, he works out, he's in great shape and everything like that. But when you talk to him, you think, you know, what's this guy gonna do? And then he gets in the ring, and the bell rings. He's a different dude. Like, he's all business, smooth, like you said. That's a great word, smooth. My God, like, you know, the stuff that he can do in the ring, it's phenomenal. Based on, like, if you talk to him in the back, you know what I mean?
And it surprised me when he said how long he was doing it, because he was like, yeah, man, I've been doing this for about 16 years. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, you don't look like a 16-year vet.
Because I've been only doing it for 3. So
right.
I was very surprised, but
and that's the thing. Like Mikey Raw was on here a minute ago, giving you props like he did. Mikey's been in and out of the business for almost 20 years.
Good God. Yeah, that shocked me too. He was like, I'm almost 40. I'm like,
yeah.
Like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
But yeah, no, it's cool to pick those brains. And I mean, do you do that? Do you find yourself doing that, talking to some of the vets like that about, you know, since you've only been around for a few years, you know, or no? Respectfully, yeah. Because some guys will offer it to you and will gladly do so, and other guys are like, you know, get away from it.
Really sit there like,
right.
Yep. All right.
Young kid gonna come take my spot. Can't be having that.
But yeah.
All right. So, what's next for you? I mean, what do you got going on right now? Do you have anything to promote? You have anything you want to talk about as far as present goes before we talk about the future?
Upcoming next week at AWA Alliance in Waldorf, Maryland, I'll be wrestling my good friend Zion Hart. He's an up-and-comer as well, so you'll definitely hear of him more often. And I'm looking forward to a pretty solid match there. The week after that, I will be that's the 5th. I'll be at Eclipse Wrestling, teaming up my good friend Tiberius, going against, I forgot their team name. Lord have mercy. I forgot the name of the cowboy hat dude and the dude with the mask. I'll post the graphic later. But there's a tag there. Number 1 contenders match for the tag title, so that'll be fun. Week after that, I believe, is, I think I have an off week. I'm not certain, but that's the ones I remember. Nothing that truly sticks out. If something comes up, I'll definitely post it.
Have you do you keep yourself busy? And what I mean by that is, do you try to get booked as much as possible, or do you where you're wrestling every weekend, or do you kind of space it out a little bit? Like, how do you work that?
Selectively, again, because there's certain, like this past summer between June and September 10th, it was every weekend. Boom, 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 right. Boom. Mm-hmm. And then this past, like after my EWA show, September 24th, I had a whole month off until yesterday. So it just depends on what I want to fill up most of the time. Sometimes, things fall through, but
right.
A lot of the times I'll have a calendar booked up. So I stay relatively busy when I can.
Yeah. But that's how you learn. You start out with everybody who will take you, and then you start to develop a little bit, and then you start going, all right, I know who to go to. I know who to maybe avoid. I know what situations are good. I know what situations seem dodgy, so I'm not going to do that. That's the mark of learning your craft, too, that a lot of guys, I think, don't always get immediately. Is like, yeah, when you start out, get out there as much as you can, and then once you've gotten through that phase, now it's time to start being selective. It's time to start saying, okay, I understand where the good bookings are versus the bookings that are maybe not so good.
Right. And I halfway disagree with the get out there as much as you can part, simply because you have, and this is nothing on account of the wrestlers, but you have promoters out there that will take advantage of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you'll have brand new guys come in and be like, oh, well, you come in and do ring crew, brother. I'll find a spot for you. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And then you're in a battle royal. And it's like, well, where do we go from here? I think you need to be selective.
That's what I was tiptoeing around.
Because there's been promotions like I've seen it where it's like, all right, well, you're only going to hit this far because you came in when you were green as goose poop, and like that's all they see you as. And there's some promotions like you can go to, like startup wise. I think EWA is a good place for live reps for somebody just starting out. I think SWO is a great place to go to.
Yes.
Just get live reps because the SWO locker room. I don't know how many of you guys know this. It like hate each other out there, but we are all very tight knit. So you just gotta be selective, but not too selective because again, you're not good enough yet. So be smart.
Right.
Yeah, and we've talked to most of those guys in the SWO locker room, and we know that they are, they all work together really hard to put on a really great show no matter what. They work with a lot of different guys, a lot of different talent. I like how they keep storylines going where some places don't. Yeah. They just kind of throw matches together. So they string a program over a few months rather than just, I'm going to put you in the ring today with whoever.
Yeah.
And that's how guys learn too, being able to work angles in a situation where it's not on national television. It's not a case of I've only got that one chance to make a first impression and oh God, I bombed here and everybody in the country saw it. So now I'm screwed because I can't go back now and go, hey, remember me? That guy that, sucked 6 months ago? I'm good now. I swear. I know what I'm doing. I'm in a better position now. That's so hard. And I mean, we know a lot of the management there. You're right. It's a great place to be. It's a great place for guys to go and learn. And I wish there were more promotions out there like it, because you're right. There are those promotions where the promoter gets an idea of you and never changes the idea. And then there are so many guys that I think fall into the trap of going, well, they'll book me, so I'm going to stay there. And it's like, no, but you shouldn't, because they're never going to see your development. They're never going to see that you're more than what they first encountered.
Right. And there's a phrase that goes, yesterday's price ain't today's price. People, this isn't going on with me now. So if any promoters that I work for watches this,
oh yeah, God no.
But you'll get Rico Hendrix walked in, maybe you saw him work a certain way. You saw him like, okay, I mean, he's decent, but he's not exactly hard. And then you see me today, and then it's like, oh, well, here we are. We got something we can sink our teeth into. But then, I mean, they may try to financially compensate you the way they saw you the first time. They may try to the way they saw you the first time, and it's like, well, it's applicable now because things have changed.
Right.
How
about let's talk about influences as you came up, as you started training, as you started wrestling. Do you have influences? Did you you mentioned Elijah Burke earlier, but I mean, do you have certain guys that you look up to, certain guys that you not necessarily emulate, but like guys that you kind of look at and you kind of, because some guys pull their move set from all different kinds of facets and then they come up with their own thing. And you seem to not, like, when we're watching you wrestle, you don't remind me of anybody else, and that's a good thing. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, certainly.
So is there guys that you've looked up to over the past couple of years?
The main thing that impressed me about, and I know we're running short on time, the main thing that impressed me about wrestlers is presentation and ring IQ. So going in there, you don't need to do 800,000 moves in a row. You can do flashy stuff, but you don't need to sit there and do stuff that makes absolutely no sense. You can do flashy stuff within context. And I think this is a very underrated guy, but everybody that knows me knows I'm a fan of him. Matt Taven of Mike Bennett. I was fans of them around the same time, actually. And it's funny how that happened. I was a fan of Maria first, then a fan of Mike, then a fan of Matt.
Yeah, that kind of works.
And then I went to a Matt Taven seminar like 2 years ago. Again, green as goose dude. And I'm embarrassed. I hope I get a chance to step in the ring with him one day. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Either one of them. But yeah, I definitely like they're some of the smarter wrestlers around, and they're both like mid to late 30s now. Great
Yeah.
shape. I think they've been hurt like maybe once. Like they're
Yep.
smart with what they do. They're flashy within context, and they where they go, and they're a very underrated tag team. They
Yep.
don't, and it's crazy because it's like, oh, they're just the OGK or they're just the Kingdom, and then you look at their matches like, oh, they wrestled the Bucks, they wrestled the Briscoes. Heck,
Right.
I don't wrestled FTR yet, but that'd be cool. So they got all these notches on their belt, and people still look at them like, oh, just the Kingdom. But no, they're some of the smartest workers in the business, and they deserve where they are, and probably even more than that. Who else? Oh, I'm going. I mean, Kenny Omega is my favorite wrestler. Period. Like that. That's great. Well, I can't say his name anymore. Yeah, one of my favorite wrestlers got canceled, so I can't say it anymore.
Gotcha.
But that's really about off the top of my head, anyways.
If you could book yourself against somebody you haven't wrestled before, who would that be and why? Yeah. I mean, some people have a list, you know, and I mean, yeah, and I mean, some people that when I ask that question, that name. Go ahead.
Y'all saw him on AEW Dark not too long ago, but Action Andretti.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need that as a challenge. I think that kind of and this is putting him over huge. If I wrestle him, that'll tell me where I am, because that man can go.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, if I can go with him, then I'm like, all right, I think I'm pretty good now. So I think I definitely will want that done. My very close second is Bro Keller.
Really?
Yes, very close second. I enjoy his work. He's very good. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, and he was just recently on Raw, right? Or SmackDown, one of them.
He was on Raw and he lost
Raw.
to, he's better than, but no, I'm joking. But, yeah.
All right, man. Well, I mean, man, I just lost my train of thought. At this point, I usually ask, you know, where do you see yourself at the end? I usually ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see Rico Hendrix in 5 years?
5 years from now. Let's see, I'd be about 8 years in. So at that point, I'm hoping I'm on TV. At that point, like, I'd be 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should be at the point where it's like, all right, we gotta get the ball rolling. So I'm
you're just hitting your prime then.
Yeah, so that 28 to 35 in pro wrestling, it's not like you think. That's what's crazy. You're 30 years old in football years. People like,
you're done.
Yeah. Yep. You hit 30 in wrestling, that you just hitting your stride. So I think, like, all right, you just hitting your prime for real. You should be on TV. You should be doing a lot bigger things. Look a lot better for you. That's really it. I'm hoping my name isn't Rico Hendrix in 5 years, because WWE won't let me keep it.
Right. But I mean, is WWE the ultimate goal? Would you be happy, or would you try, like, you know, if you got the call at AEW?
I'm gonna take the contract, but they're not the ultimate goal. No, not anymore. Okay. And it wasn't when Vince was in charge, and it isn't now, even though Triple H is in charge. I have immense respect for the company. Obviously, they've done what they've done in the years or so, but that's just not a Rico Hendrix goal. I mean, a Rico Hendrix, like, final destination per se. Because honestly, my number one thing with them is the schedule. Because, like, you got factoring family stuff and all this.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't gonna be stupid and turn down the contract, though. Trust me. If they were like, we coming to you with XYZ, I'm like, look, we're gonna have to get a nanny or something, because I'm on the road. Sorry, but I mean, if in a perfect world, then I mean, I think AEW accommodates that a lot better. But they got their issues too. I'm not gonna go on about the company's issues, but they got issues too. So perfect. But
one last question, bud, and we'll get you out of here, and that is the fill in the blank. All right. The greatest wrestling match you ever saw was that didn't involve you. Was I got to preface it? No, I say that and I don't add that, and they add them. Sometimes they add themselves.
They're like, yeah, myself versus Tommy Brickwall in 2000. When I've ever watched.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
I know it blows your head open.
I'm gonna. It's probably an obvious answer, but I'm gonna say Undertaker, Shawn Michaels the second time.
There it is. Oh, second time. You mean 26?
I enjoyed the second time more than the first.
Because that was streak versus career.
It wasn't even the stakes. I just feel like the match itself was better.
Yeah, that was gonna be my ask, is like, was it the stakes, or you're saying the actual match is better without the stakes?
Right. Yeah, the stakes helped it, but the match.
Yeah.
And seeing how it transpired into the Triple H series as well. And again, the second of that series was the better one. So it seems like Undertaker does better the second time around his opponent.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great choice, because that's a choice that we often hear, and we don't get tired. Keith and I don't get tired of talking about that match for sure.
I mean, usually we get the Mania 25. That's what I was so interested in, and I'm more partial to 25 myself. And I'm a Taker mark. I always put that out on Front Street. I'm a giant mark for the Undertaker.
Yeah, I think in comparison, I think it might be because of comparison, because overall WrestleMania 25. As a fan, forget I'm Rico Hendrix right now. As a fan, WrestleMania 25 wasn't good.
It was not. You're right. It's a one-match show.
It was they had that match. You had the Matt and Jeff Hardy match, and you had.
All right, yeah, that was good.
Didn't he work? Was that Rey Mysterio? No, that wasn't. That was
the main event was Triple H and Jericho, wasn't it?
No, it was Orton. It was not good. Good.
Triple H and Orton, right?
Yeah, and they'll both tell you that was not good.
And it was not good. And I mean, plus they had to follow. I think it got into their head. They had to follow Shawn and take.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Looking at about a 10 to 12 match card, and I'm seeing 3 good matches. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
I think that might have been what it was. Whereas opposed to 26, you're like, a lot more. It wasn't perfect, but you had a lot more fun.
No, it wasn't perfect. I mean, we were out there for 29, me and Al, and there was some good stuff on that, but man, a lot of that was
yeah. All right, man. Well, we're gonna get you out of here with. Is there anything else you want to plug, or social media, anything like that, before we let you go?
All of my social medias are Rico Hendrix Pro. That's Instagram, that's Twitter, that's TikTok. Although my TikTok my TikTok's a mix of a bunch of stuff. But my Facebook is Rico Hendrix. Shout out to, first of all, thanks to everybody that tuned in to listen. Everybody, thank you guys for bringing me on.
Our pleasure.
Plug them. So I told James that I'd talk about him a little more because he just started up. He's a really good job. So definitely check us out. He should be back in January. I think he won't care that I talk about this too much if he doesn't tell me. But when you start up promotions, there are risks. There are rewards.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you need to take that time to recover. That's why it's going to take a minute. But there's a lot in store for 2023 for UCW. I'm not going to announce that. He's going to do that. So there's a lot for 2023 UCW about that. EWA in a cage is in January of 2023. I will be defending, where'd it go? My Maryland championship that I just won not too long ago. Wait, no, I won't be defending it.
No.
Fine. There's that. And that's it. That's the 2 main things that come to mind. But yeah.
All right, man. Well, listen, we wish you nothing but the best. We enjoy your work. I think you're only going to get better. And I think if you keep the work ethic that you have right now, the mindset, the open mind, the evolving mindset you mentioned earlier, I think there's no limit to you. I used to say sky's the limit, and then the professor, corrected me on that one. I don't think there's a limit for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we would love to have you on again in 6 months or a year and catch up with you and see how things are going.
Certainly.
And if you ever want, or if you ever know anybody who's new and young and green and want to get their name out there, send them our way. We are glad to have them on and tell their story, no matter how how new to the business they are.
Absolutely, we'll do.
And if you're in 3WA and SWO, you keep sticking around there. I'm sure we're going to run into you.
And a big shout out to Carolina Jim, the ring announcer for Saturday, because his Panthers actually won a game, and there's Rico, wearing a Panthers jersey.
That's why I put it on. I might go put it on.
Shout out to Carolina Jim, because now Rico and Jim are the only two Panthers fans I really know. So
I was about to say, I'm only gonna get like 2 or 3 more chances to celebrate like this for the rest of the year. So I don't
understand how you get rid of Christian McCaffrey, then you win. I don't understand how that works.
Well, I can go into it, but I need more.
Yeah.
We can go to a whole analysis, right?
Yeah.
Tom Brady's getting old. It's that simple. Tom Brady's getting old.
We'll have to create the Carolina Panthers analysis show just for Rico Hendrix. Invite Jim in there, and we'll get it done.
I'd rip that team to shreds, but
all right, Rico. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. We appreciate the time you spent with us, and we wish you nothing but the best, man. And thanks a lot for coming on today. And fans, if you're watching this right now live, stay tuned, because at 7:00, Keith and I are going to be back with a bunch of indie super fans, and we got a huge announcement that even the professor don't know about concerning the 3WA.
All right, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Love talking to you. And we wish you nothing but the best. We're gonna get out of here, Keith, and we're gonna come back in to a brand new room. All right. So
clearly, and I'm gonna know nothing of what's happening.
I love it. So stay tuned for Rico Hendrix, the Toxic King, and the Professor. I'm the Big Alboski. This was Around the Turnbuckle. We'll see you very shortly with our bonus episode.
What is happening?
You think you know me?
Oh, yeah! If you smile!
Can I